Good evening. It is Thursday, October 27th. The time is 6 p.m. We're calling to order our city council meeting. We will have an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Please rise if you wish. Heavenly Father, we ask that you guide us this evening as we go over the agenda that is before us, that we might do what is best for our community as a whole. We ask that you watch over our citizens and our business community. We ask that you give special thanks and blessings to our city employees. We ask that you watch over those that are in your need for healing hands. We ask that you watch over our military and our federal and state government so that they might do what is best for our community as a whole. And we thank you for all of our citizens and our employees. In thy name we do pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looks like we got reinforcements coming in here tonight.
Yep. Oh, look at there. I don't know.
3 of them.
Bradbury clan is here.
Yeah. So Sanders, you got reinforcements?
We have several presentations this evening. So, can I have Ashley come up, please? Okay. All righty.
All right, so
Here we go.
bear with me. We have a few awards. We have a big crowd tonight, and there's a couple things we got to get through. So we'll get through them. First up, we have Miss. Oh, hold on. No, it's Mr. Well, Keith Seville Jr., we have Public Works. Come on up. It's Public Works people. Come on. Keith is going to be very mad at me because nothing he can do about it, though. He didn't want to take this from council or get it at council, but
Too bad.
too bad. To Keith V. Seville Jr., in appreciation and recognition for 25 years of continuous and loyal service. Stand up here. This is for your wife. These are gifts she's going to want to get. 25 years. And if you're wondering how he can get 25 years and be as young as he is, Keith started at 12. Keith started in the rec centers as a part-time employee, maybe 98, 97. 97. He worked part-time and put himself through college. Went and became a teacher for a little while, did really good as a teacher. He wanted to be in elementary school, and they put him in middle school, and the issue was the kids were big. They were big kids. So he ended up coming to the city, and he stayed at the city. He's been here 25 years, and we can't thank you enough. And seriously, he might as well stay. Dad, you want to come with a picture? 25 years is a long time, man. Yeah. That's a long time. And he might as well stay. The reason I really did that because there's a couple of awards we have for Keith, or Keith's group. You got to have a good time. Stay up here. Do you want to go ahead and do this? Stay up here.
It is. We can always do more clapping and more cheering. So, all righty, Miss Ashley, come on up. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Glad to be able to do this again. So, whereas autism is pervasive development disorder affecting the social and that's the wrong one. Thank you. This one. And that is arterious venous. Yes, thank you. Whereas arteriovenous malformations, which is also known as AVM, is a complex tangle of arteries and veins that bypass normal brain tissues and directly diverts blood from the arteries to the veins. Potential results is devastating: ruptures, seizures, and death. An estimated 18 in 100,000 people in the United States have AVM in their brain. After the AVM ruptures, there is a 10 to 15% risk of death and 20 to 30% chance of permanent brain damage after each bleed. Approximately 10 to 58% of AVM patients have various kinds of amnesia and weak areas in their blood vessels that enlarge like a balloon and is at risk for bleeding and rupturing, resulting in possible brain damage or long-term disabilities. 50% of the AVM patients present as sudden hemorrhaging, bleeding in the brain, or a form of a stroke. Access to accurate information and expertise and community of support survivors, caregivers, families, and friends are making education decisions about this treatment and also coping and can making critical differences in minimizing risk and increasing the quality of life for those that are affected. More research is needed to determine the cause, discover better treatments and options to cure the AVM. Increased public awareness is necessary so that individuals are better able to recognize the symptoms and understand the available resources and options. Therefore, I, Sandra Lee Bradbury, Mayor of the City of Pinellas Park, Florida, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do proclaim the month of October as AVM Awareness Month and encourage all the citizens to raise awareness of the AVMs and support efforts being made to help those affected by these brain conditions. In witness, I set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Pinellas Park, Florida, to be affixed on this 27th day of October. And I want to turn it over to her. This is a wonderful young lady that is in our community that is doing a good fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Persfield. I'm a junior at Osceola High School. And when I was a freshman, I had a personal experience with a ruptured AVM. I was playing volleyball on September 28th, 2020, and I experienced extreme head pain and neck pain. And we thought I maybe had meningitis, but after I went to the hospital, they found I was bleeding in the brain, and I was then transferred to All Children's and put in ICU for 2 weeks, where they found out I had an AVM. I remarkably made like an incredible recovery, and I'm happy to say that I went back to playing volleyball. I just came from practice right now. But I then have since then joined an organization called TAF, which is the Brain Aneurysm. Brain Aneurysm Foundation. Thank you. The Brain Aneurysm and AVM Foundation, and it's for all kids, so it's supported by teens, so like 18 and younger, and we just we like support and bring out for other people going through issues like this.
Volleyball is going well?
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
I would go with So if you've been following the city, you've heard about the storm that may have came through a couple seems like yesterday, but a few weeks ago. We had a plan from the Florida League of Cities to show up to help us with this. And we got canceled because of the Hurricane Ian. And so the mayor, standing next to me here, the mayor has earned the Florida League of Cities John Land Service Award for 20 years of service to the city of Pinellas Park. The league's board of directors passed a resolution in honor of your service. On behalf of the league, council, city staff, we present you with this resolution and lapel pin. And I read this because I wasn't reading that, and that's why the family's here. So y'all, let's do a picture with them. Thank you. Come on up.
Well, now I know why they're here.
Surprise.
And, yep, starting out with Dad, and Kevin and I were dating and got engaged, and then this one came along, so they've been here 16 years. He's been here with the 20 years, and so's Dad. My mom and Dad gave me the courage and also gave me the, I don't know what to say, the strength and courage and the temperament sometimes to be very involved with my community. They were wonderful examples of getting involved in the community and hopefully my husband and I are passing that along to our son. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yes. I like doing those. Mr. Elijah.
You can bring him with you. Kids are way better.
They're the whole reason why we're here.
Yeah.
They're our future. So, this is Elijah Bowling. He has been with the city for 10 years. He began as a began his maintenance career with the Public Works Department and as maintenance operator and in transportation and stormwater division. Most days you can find him mowing on the right-of-way throughout the city. The best advice Elijah has received is time is more important than money. Family is more important than anything. Don't miss out on things with your children because they only have one childhood. See, you need to bring him up here. Elijah was adopted at age 17. His passion includes helping children, dealing with abuse, the foster system, and local child protective services. If money were no object, he would like to open his home for children to be placed. Elijah loves being on the water or in the woods without his phone. His hobbies include hanging out with his family, friends, and gaming. How are you? Hi. Open that up for me. Some of his best and most important and memorable experiences have been with meeting all of the interesting people while on the job, and he appreciates all of that he has. And we want to congratulate him on 10 years of service. And I would say that we got a lot of other extended family members here for you, and hope that you can give us 20 more. With that attitude, I hope so. We present the certificate to Elijah Bowling in appreciation of 10 years of continuous and loyal service as of the 3rd day of October, 2022. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Give us your one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got goodies in there for her. Come on up.
Can you come over here and stand with me? Are we gonna close it?
Snap it quick.
Well, show me. Can you count to three for us? Three? 1, 2. 1, 2.
That'll work. Jeez, Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. You can.
All right, moving on with the festivities. Jaylene, if you would come up, please. A couple coaches back there probably could come up too, Rut. Come on. Rut, you got to work a couple more years. Come on up. Come on, Vinny. Scotty, especially Scotty. For not, come on, Scotty. You guys are, get over here. All right, so the story with this is, Rut, you got the story better than I do. You're putting me on the spot here on live TV. 50 million people are watching.
Tucker Carlson.
Take your time. There's only 50 million people watching this right now.
Costs $1 million a minute.
Yeah. That's why I'm giving the mic to you.
So, Jaylene started with us in 2018, I believe. Yes. And when we hired her, she did not have a high school diploma. But Bart twisted my arm and made me hire her anyways. So we did. And 4 years later, she became a mother again. We had a hurricane. We had a tornado. And of course, we had COVID. And with all that going on, she obtained her GED.
Rut messed it up. So we were doing interviews, and I really didn't know we were doing interviews. I was at the Public Works building in my other position prior to this one, and I was looking out the window when I saw a late model Suburban pull in. And if you know what a late model Suburban, it's about 30 feet long. And I saw it pull in and back into a spot one time. No, usually there's 15 movements to get the vehicle in there, and then I see her get out. I proceeded to run. No, it's funny. I ran downstairs, and he didn't even know her name yet. I said, "We're hiring this girl," and so he did. He listened to her. He interviewed her very well. The story behind that is we have a bunch of folks that have been here a long time that can't back a truck up. That's the ironic part. So if she can back a truck up, she can do anything else. So then he runs up a little while later, and I guess it was that day, and pretty much broke my heart and said, "We can't hire her. She doesn't have a high school diploma."
Well, we hired her anyways.
Well, we had to fight a little bit. There was a little bit of fight, but we made it work. We made it work. So I wanted you to see the progress, and it can be done. There's no question it can be done. And she's worked very hard to do this. She got her CDL, and she is a really good worker. And she's got a bunch of family here, too. You want to bring them up for a picture?
Heck yeah.
Bring them all up.
Sweet.
So yes. In fact, we were full of a building of men. There were men there. And the two women, her and her partner, were out in the storm cutting trees up. So it's kind of ironic. She's tougher than most men, is the truth.
Yeah, Vinny needs to come up there. Come on, Vinny, let's go.
The point behind that whole thing is, it's hard work. It's especially right now. It's very hard to hire folks. So to be able to help somebody do that, it's pretty tremendous. So yeah, Keith's getting off the hook on this one. This is bad. I'm not reading that thing. Where's the this is the proclamation. All right. Time's up, Mr. Dillon. Come on up, buddy. It's go time. It's go time.
Turn buddies.
Dylan makes me laugh. I love Dylan. I'm not going to read this whole thing. There's a lot to this. So this is Dylan Barnes. Dylan Barnes. Get rid of this thing for a minute. Dylan came to us as a summer intern over the summer. We brought Dylan in as one of our interns, and we moved him around the city quite a bit. And come ending time for him to leave the city, I asked a few people in one of our meetings. I said, "Well, everybody met Dylan," and Dylan's time comes to an end. And I got yelled at. Nobody wanted him. That's why you're up here, is to do this. Okay. We wanted to keep Dylan. So, long story short, Dylan Barnes is a local kid. He's not a kid, he's a grown man. I can't even tell the story. This is the mayor's thing. So Dylan works for us part-time right now. Dylan is a employee of the city. I wanted council to meet Dylan. God.
Hey, Dylan.
The funny part is if you just keep talking, people don't realize it. I stop talking so you realize I'm tearing up. Dylan, what do you do this to me for? You're supposed to be my buddy. Dylan has autism.
Whereas autism is a prospective development disorder affecting the social and communication and behavioral skills of those affected by it. As more health professionals become proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the autism spectrum, resulting in rates of as high as 1 out of 68 children nationally. While there are no cures for autism, it is well documented that if individuals with autism receive early and intensive treatment throughout their lives, they lead successful improvements in their lives. Individuals with autism often require a lifetime of specialized and community support services to ensure that their health and safety, and that they have support for their families. Resilience as they manage to the psychological and financial burdens of autism that it can present. Autism Florida is spearheading an awareness effort in order to educate parents, professionals, and the general public about autism and its effects. Therefore, I, Sandra Lee Bradbury, Mayor of the City of Pinellas Park, Florida, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as World Autism Awareness Month and urge all citizens to participate in World Awareness Autism Month with its activities in order to become better educated about autism and create a better community for individuals with autism. In witness, I set my hand to cause the seal of the City of Pinellas Park, Florida, to be affixed on this 27th day of 2022. And there are a lot of people out there, even older people that probably were never diagnosed, that have the capabilities of leading normal lives with families and have the potential to do a lot of wonderful things in our community. So I think this is for you. So.
Just to say a couple of things about Dylan is when Bart came and said, hey, we need to find a spot for this guy, And I'll tell you, he brings an element to the building that no other employee can bring. He walks up the stairs, you hear him coming. He hits every stair as hard as he can. He comes up, he looks in your office, and you say, "Hey, can you water the plants for me?" And he says, "Yeah, I guess." And he takes off, waters the plants, comes back, hands you mail. There's one particular employee, well, there's a couple, but one particular employee that's kind of guided him through the whole process. Rayanne, she's done an excellent job with him. Scott Vandeveer, taking him, dropping him off to the different locations. He's been out at the farm. He's been at the library. There's also another employee in the city. She works in the Public Works Operations Center. I haven't seen her turned around for a long time, and she's taken a special interest in Dylan and working with him. I see her smiling. I see her, interacting with him all the time, Don Wise, and he seems to enjoy working with her. So it's just brought out a lot of good things in a lot of people. So he definitely makes it a better workplace. So thank you, Dylan.
I'm good now. I'm over it. What she said. I wanted to introduce you. I don't know if you realize this or not, but the holidays are upon us. We have 2 meetings next month in November and 1 meeting in December. So I wanted some of the good stuff before the year ended, because this is his year. This is his first year. Now he's going to be a senior next year, so he'll be old news then. But with Dylan, we met his coach, Miss Mona, who you like, Mona. Mm-hmm. And Mona she's part of a group where she finds jobs for other folks, let's say it that way. And with Miss Mona, we met with staff. I should have had Sharon do this. She'd have been good at this. But we met with 5 of her folks, and we did a little interview with the whole room of people. We're hiring 3 other people. She wanted me to tell you tonight there's 3 other interns we're hiring with autism. They start in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, pretty cool. So I just wanted you to see some of the good stuff. Okay? This is Dylan. Dylan, you want to bring your family up? Up. We got to take a picture with them. So we have Grandma and Grandpa, we have his sister, and then Mom and Dad. And there is a story here. Can't tell the story, but there is another story, and it's the Barnes name. John Barnes is actually his uncle. Yep. John Barnes worked with us for a long time, 30-plus years.
John Barnes and I played baseball together for McDonald's team back when we were 8 years old.
Thank you.
No, not at all.
His dad was the coach, and all us kids could get by with just about anything, but John couldn't get by with nothing.
Sorry. So there was one of the items that obviously wasn't on my list. But thank you guys for being patient while we went over the proclamations and the service award for Elijah and the special presentations. At this time, we are opening it up to anybody who would like to come up and speak on any item that is not on the agenda this evening. You would have 3 minutes to do so. Yes.
We do have a storm drain mural video.
Oh, good. Good. I left my thing over there.
Video.
Well, while it doesn't seem to be anybody, we're going to go back and show you guys a storm drain video. At least the artist, please.
We're all painting to help raise awareness about storm drain pollution and help encourage people to treat our environment a little bit better and help keep our water clean. I think the storm drain mural project is unique for Pinellas Park, especially because it's just getting more artwork out into the public eye. There isn't a lot of that just out on the streets yet. And also it is on the streets instead of on the walls. So it'll hopefully cause people to stop, take a look around, and think twice about their neighborhoods and the pollution that we're stopping within them. If I was going to give advice to young people who want to be more involved in the art scene here, I would tell them to do what I'm doing, which is basically just to apply for everything. Even if you've never done it before, even if you think you might need some help, go ahead, apply, see if you get it, and then you can figure it out later because everyone is very friendly, everyone is willing to help, and the city has also been very helpful with this project.
I'm Lizzie St. Pierre and I'm the Economic Development Coordinator with the City of Pinellas Park. So the mission for the Storm Drain Project is to spread awareness for storm drain pollution along with just beautifying the City of Pinellas Park. So the City of Pinellas Park Storm Drain Mural Project started March of 2021 with our first call to artists. We currently are on our 4th round of the project and that should be completed around end of August of this year. So the artists that partake in this program are all ranges of life. So we have kids anywhere the age of 10 that are trying to explore the art program itself. We have artists that do this for a living. And we just have people in between that are just trying to either spread the storm drain pollution mission around and then just want to get their art out. How the process works for the artist selection is we'll set out a call for artists, normally through social media posts. Anyone, any age, any location can apply. We have an anonymous selection committee that comes in, ranks all the projects that have been submitted, and the city supplies the paint for them and a $500 stipend.
One day my mom was on Facebook and she told me about it, and as soon as she told me, I definitely wanted to enter, so I started coming up with concepts I could draw, and eventually I came up with a few of them. I sent them in and I was extremely happy when I heard back that I won. My design is a giant red crab holding a sign that says "Only rain down the drain," and I chose a crab because my sister and I used to have pet homemade crabs. And I love homemade crabs so much. The project is important because you often see lawn men blowing leaves and chemicals down the storm drains, and it's a lot of pollution that goes into our waterways and oceans. I just want to give a big thank you to the city because it was a lot of fun doing this, and it's definitely not something you get to do every day. For the people here to enjoy as well as hopefully to do something good for our community and our environment. It's always been my dream to share my art with the community, and it makes it extra special since it's a good message.
Very good. Some more positive stuff in the city. So, we do have some quasi-judicial items this evening, so anybody that is going to speak on a quasi-judicial item, please stand and be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Section 2, approval of minutes. Councilmember Butler.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion we approve the special council minutes of October 6th, 2022's on regular council minutes of October 13th, 2022 is on file in the city clerk's office.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion by city council on this item? Any discussion from anybody in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Moving on to Section 3, public hearings, item P1.
Item P1 is consideration of a request for approval of a conditional use for a tavern and lounge located at 12333 66th Street North in the B1 General Commercial Zoning District with a waiver to conditional use criteria restricting ingress and egress via a local street.
Thank you. Section 3's public hearing, item P1, public hearings, first and final reading. It is quasi-judicial. I am opening the public hearing and turning it over to Erica.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Erica Lindquist, Planning and Development Services Director. Also, Nick Colonna, Community Development Administrator, and Megan Montesino, Development Review Manager, are also here tonight. I would like to present case number CU 0522-00017 into the official record. The applicant in this case is Daniel D. Driscoll Jr. as trustee of the Watering Trough Land Trust, UTD. The request is a conditional use approval for a tavern and lounge in the General Commercial B1 zoning district with a waiver to conditional use criteria that restricts ingress and egress via a local street. The property is located at 12333 66th Street, north of 123rd Avenue. The property has a land use of Commercial General CG. The property is zoned General Commercial B1. The city's land development code defines a tavern and lounge as any place of business that sells or dispenses alcoholic beverages for consumption on premises and derives 50% or more of its gross revenue from the sale or dispensing of alcoholic beverages. The purpose of the conditional use section of the city's land development code is to provide procedures, regulations, and evaluation criteria for conditional uses, which, because of certain characteristics and potential impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, may not be appropriate at particular locations within a zoning district, and or may be appropriate only when subject to additional regulations set forth herein. An individual review of their location, design, scale, configuration, operation, and other characteristics necessary to ensure that the use is appropriate at a particular location. Conditional use approval will run with the land. Approval does not become effective until a final site plan is approved, occupancy is authorized, and required business tax receipts or BTRs are issued. In order for any conditional use listed in this section to be reestablished after having either been without an active business tax receipt or having been discontinued for a period of 1 year or more, an applicant shall be required to demonstrate compliance with the regulations of this section and any previously required conditions of approval prior to the issuance of a business tax receipt. Conditional use review criteria from Section 18-1531 of the Land Development Code. In granting an application for a conditional use, the city shall find that such approval will not adversely affect the public interest and shall consider the following compatibility criteria: whether the use and its proposed scale will be inconsistent with the established character of the immediate neighborhood, whether the use will diminish use or enjoyment of other properties and living and working conditions in the neighborhood, whether the use will impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding properties, whether the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the use will be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, comfort, or general welfare as a result of hours of operation, arrangement of uses on the site, noise, vibration, emission or pollutants, glare, odor, dust, traffic congestion, attractive nuisance, or other condition. Whether the land area is sufficient, appropriate, and adequate for the use and reasonably anticipated operations and expansion thereof. Staff is concerned that this particular property does not have sufficient space for the high number of vehicles that have been witnessed on the site during open hours. The use of a tavern generally has a lower traffic impact, which is why only 48 parking spaces are required per code for a tavern and lounge. Whether the use and whether the use and associated improvements will adversely affect a known archaeological, historical, cultural, or landscape resource, and whether the particular traffic generation characteristics of the proposed use is compatible with the traffic generation characteristics of other uses permitted in the zoning district applicable to the neighborhood. As I stated, staff's concerned with the traffic impact caused by current operations. The police department is going to provide additional information about traffic. Uses in the M1 light industrial zoning, which includes most of the surrounding area, generally have lower rates of traffic than the subject property as it is currently operating. Some history of the site. In 2006, this property was annexed from Pinellas County with the intent of developing a 12,000 square foot commercial building. 2007, a covenant running with the land was recorded to reduce the traffic impact fee due to non-peak hours of operation of the business. This covenant restricts the use to a tavern, limits hours of operation to between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. In 2020, the watering trough closed, and in 2021, the conditional use approval for a tavern and lounge on the property expired a year after the closing. And some background. So as I mentioned, the proposed use is a tavern and lounge. This is a conditional use in the B1 zoning district. Several site improvements are required to bring the property up to code. The owner has so far been operating without the appropriate licenses and approvals. They have no business tax receipt with the city, no alcohol license for the property, and no current conditional use approval from the city. Also, the eastern driveway off 123rd Avenue, which is a county road, was never permitted and must be removed or permitted by the county. We did hear from the county that an application was recently submitted, but revisions are needed due to lack of detail required for their approval. A little code compliance history. There are currently 2 open cases with code enforcement. One is the unlawful keeping of junk, allowing abandoned, wrecked, non-operating, or junked vehicles on the property, and violation of fences, walls, and hedges requirements. Code compliance issued a notice of violation October 12th, 2021. On November 17th, 2021, special magistrate issued a guilty order requiring compliance by December 5th, 2021. The violation was not corrected. On August 24th, 2022, special magistrate issued an administrative fine of $100 per day, retroactive to December 5th, 2021. The second case is a violation for operating without a business tax receipt. Code compliance issued the notice of violation on May 5th, 2022. On May 18th, Code Enforcement Board issued a guilty order requiring compliance by May 20th. The violation was not corrected. The Code Enforcement Board has issued an order of continuance and will discuss the case again at their next meeting. This is the 2008 approved site plan. The following site improvements were proposed by the business owner as part of their conditional use application. To replace the deteriorating wood fence, which is in poor condition, with a 6-foot tall vinyl PVC fence. To pave 52 spaces out of the approximately 179 spaces on the site. And for the use of a tavern and lounge, our code requires a minimum of 48 spaces. This is the landscaping plan. On staff site visit on May 12th, 2022, staff noticed several trees that had been removed and some that were dead or dying. All of those must be replaced, and the rest of the landscaping must be brought up to code as shown on the landscaping plan. And here are some site photos. This is the front of the building and their sign. This is the front and sides of the building. These are existing parking spaces, and you can see that it's really gravel that has not been striped, and there are no curb stops. Also, the wooden posts in the parking area must be removed to bring the site up to code. This is the existing wood fence, which is in poor condition. When we did a site visit, there was a storage unit and a bus in the parking area. This photo shows the updated dumpster enclosure and concrete pad, but those were installed without a permit, so an after-the-fact permit is going to be required. This is the driveway that I mentioned on the southeast end, which has not yet been permitted by the county, and that has to either be permitted or removed. Conditional use criteria for taverns and lounges. Review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and approval by City Council. If any waivers requested, and criteria D is requested to be waived. B, the subject property is neither adjacent nor functionally adjacent to a residential zoning district, and this criteria has been met since the property is neither adjacent nor functionally adjacent to residential. The subject property is not within 500 feet of a place of worship, educational institution, public educational facility, or daycare center, and this criteria has been met. The subject property shall have frontage on either an arterial or collector right-of-way with ingress to and egress from the property, not to occur via a local street. And this is the waiver that's been requested. This criteria is requested to be waived. The only ingress and egress from the property is via a local street, which is 123rd Avenue, and again, that is a county road. On August 4th, 2022, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of case number CU 0522-00017. Staff previously recommended approval of the case with several conditions. However, the updated staff recommendation, based on the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation and the testimony given at the August 4th, 2022 public hearing, staff now recommends denial of this case. Thank you, and I believe Assistant Chief Umsing also has a presentation for this case along with some videos.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. For the record, my name is Brian Emezig, Assistant Chief of Police for the Pinellas Park Police Department, and I have been sworn in. I'd like to start by emphasizing that the police department puts forth a significant and intentional effort through our community officers, patrol officers, community compliance specialists, and leadership team to be a resource and good partner to our business community. We want our businesses to be a safe place to work and visit. We want them to be successful, and that goes for this location as well. With that said, the police department does share some concerns regarding this location, and if it's okay, I'd like to go over a few of those. First, the police department is concerned that the business has been operating large events without the proper licensing. The location currently has an open code lien set forth by special magistrate for a violation of fences, walls, and hedges requirement, and I think there was another one that was mentioned. As of today, that lien is now $32,600 and is increasing $100 each day of noncompliance. We have safety concerns for patrons and staff due to the parking challenges these large events are creating, not only at the location, but in the surrounding area as well. So with your permission, I would like to share just a couple of body cam videos, take a couple minutes, from a couple of different police responses to the area that may help you better visualize what some of our concerns are in the area. So if you can go to, I guess it's video 2. So I'll kind of walk through what you're seeing here. So this is actually on 123rd Avenue, all the way on the east end at the dead end, but the officer is going westbound. So we're actually going towards 66th Street. When we get down towards 66th Street, the watering trough will be on your right-hand side. So you can see all the way back to the dead end. These are residential houses here on the south side. There's cars from the venue. When we get up to that point, you'll see that every parking spot and then some in the venue is at capacity. And this is overflow parking, which from our perspective, without a parking overflow plan, the patrons are just kind of left at their own devices to find a place where they can park. And then they're traversing down this street, which is not real well lit, back down to the venue. So here we're pulling into the watering trough parking lot, and you can see every parking spot's full. We've created some spots through creative parking in the aisles. What we would consider probably the fire lane here in the front of the business. We've got cars that are parked. One of our biggest concerns here is, although our police SUVs can navigate some of these tight confined spaces, I think it would be very difficult, if possible at all, for our fire apparatus and rescue vehicles to navigate inside of this space. So if they did pull in, I don't think they could make this turn here. I don't think they could make it through these cars. And I think they'd be forced to back out. And any cars that were in that parking lot that would be trying to leave would be bottlenecked. So, and just in the interest of time, we'll skip to the last video and we'll kind of highlight kind of what we're talking about. This last video is an incident occurred on July 3rd of this year at 3:10 a.m. Officers responded to a fight involving 20 to 30 individuals. And during that altercation, an individual fired witnesses said approximately 7 shots in the direction of the crowd. We were lucky, nobody was struck with gunfire. However, we did have one injured patron at the location. So it generated, as you can imagine, a large law enforcement response. And because we had injured party on scene, it also, I believe, fire rescue rolled on this as well, if you go to the video. So because of that parking type of a scenario that we showed in the first video, which was from May, a different scene, police vehicles and fire rescue vehicles didn't try and go into the parking lot. So our response requires us to stage our equipment out on 66th Street in the travel lanes of the roadway. And then the officers will make their way towards that location. And, this is, unfortunately, not safe for our officers. One of our concerns, too, is if our vehicles, on an incident like this, were to, and you can stop it, if our vehicles were to enter into this parking lot, right, if you go back to the first video and what you've seen, we're going to bottleneck the parking lot. With this gunfire rang out, everybody ran to their cars, got in the cars, and tried to leave the area. Our first responding units observed a large number of vehicles leaving from the area. If we were to try and pull into that parking lot, nobody's going anywhere. If we were to try to take 123rd Avenue, nobody can leave and go anywhere. And so, like I said, our big concern, or one of our big concerns for this location is just the quantity of the people that are attending these large events is not what we would normally see in a tavern environment. They're operating this as an event hall, and these are large events that are taking place in a very small parking space with no overflow parking plan whatsoever, from our opinion, from our perspective. So far in 2022, the police department has responded to 49 calls for service at this location. They're only open a few nights a week, including one shots fired call, which we discussed. Officers have responded to a second incident where a subject was shot on US 19 after a disturbance took place at this venue, and the disturbance carried out onto the roadway of US 19 where an individual was shot. In addition to the 49 citizen-generated calls for service, officers have conducted 111 proactive preventive patrols at the location. While a certain number of calls for service can be expected at approved entertainment venues such as this, our current response rates also emphasize the importance of a good working relationship between the police department and the business owner. This relationship is critically important to ensure the best possible crime prevention and safety protocols are in place for the overall safety of patrons and workers. And while we have concerns, our agency will continue to respond in a professional and thoughtful way to any issues that may arise at this location. And with that, certainly I'm available to answer any questions you may have at the police department. Thank you.
Is that all of our presentations? Thank you. Now, at this time, I would invite the applicant to come up and speak on item P1. And if you don't mind, before you actually start speaking, let me ask staff if they have any, city council, if they have any questions of staff.
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Luke LaRoe, 2240 Bel Air Road, Clearwater, Florida. And I'm here tonight as the attorney for the applicant. And I know that my colleague, Mr. Denhart, was kind enough to contact me and tell me that there was hope that the applicant would be here. Unfortunately, with all the rescheduling, he was unable to be here, but I have brought a power of attorney. And you may recall that the last time I appeared before council, I had Mr. Bell with me, who is basically the day-to-day manager and the one most responsible for the affairs that we will be dealing with tonight. I would like to present and ask you to receive and file this power of attorney, and I have extra copy for council and the clerk so that Mr. Bell can speak in basically the shoes of the trustee and applicant, and we can work out whatever needs to be done to address all these issues. Clearly, there is a lot of work to be done, but I think once we talk about it in an air of good faith with a view to the future and the hope that my clients can become those valuable corporate citizens of Pinellas Park, I think that we'll be able to take a better look at this as we go forward. May I present this to the clerk?
And also,
Luke.
can you please confirm that you were sworn in?
Well, let me correct the clerk. Mr. LaRoe is an attorney. Unless you're presenting testimony, you don't have to be sworn in.
I am not presenting a testimony, but I was sworn anyway, and I am an officer of the court, so I would never say anything that wasn't absolutely true here.
Thank you.
And obviously, time is of the essence. Needless to say, I think we'll start with all of the criteria relative to the conditional use, and I'd like to have my friend Bruce McLaughlin, a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. He has some evidence to present. I think he was kind enough to give the city a copy of his PowerPoint presentation, so I will allow him to make that presentation at this time. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin, your name and address for the record and whether you were sworn in or not.
Robert Bruce McLaughlin, 900 Gulf Boulevard, Apartment 303, Indian Rocks Beach, and yes, I have been sworn.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, as Mr. Rowe said, I am a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, which is the equivalent of licensing in most of the country, except Michigan and New Jersey for some reason. But it is the equivalent of licensing as a planner in Florida. I have a Master's of Science in Urban and Regional Planning. I've been involved as a planner full-time since 1974. I've been accepted as an expert witness in many, many, many hearings like this, in addition to many court proceedings throughout the country. And I'm qualified to offer competent substantial evidence to support this application. I'd like to deal with a couple of housekeeping matters first. As staff indicated, the driveway removal permit is in process. They do require a little more detail. I had intended to do that this afternoon, but I got sidetracked for something else. But that should be completed tomorrow, and we would hope to have the driveway removal permit from Pinellas County sometime in the next week to 10 days. We've also proffered to the city the business tax, and staff declined to accept our proffer of the actual tax payment pending the outcome of the conditional use permit. I'm not sure how those two interact, but the proffer, the full payment of the business tax has been made. And then with respect to the parking issue, I'll get to the parking issue when we get into the criteria. As staff indicated, the location of the watering trough is the northeast corner of 66th Street and 123rd Avenue. The street address is 1233 66th Street North, 0.7 miles north of Bryan Dairy. It's the northernmost part of the city, and in fact it is kind of standalone city property, since most of the area north of 123rd is unincorporated county. And of course, we have a Largo address just to confuse matters. The land use in the vicinity is industrial and commercial. There's no residential in the area. It's kind of desolate. As some of you may be aware, both Mr. Leroux and I do a lot of adult entertainment work. This is the type of area to which adult entertainment uses are generally relegated. Again, I would note that we are largely contiguous to unincorporated Pinellas County, and that is a factor that should be considered. The future land use is general commercial, CG. The zoning is B1, general commercial. 66th Street to the west is a principal arterial, and 123rd Avenue running along the south boundary of the property is a local street under the jurisdiction of Pinellas County. You'll see the future land use. Thank you, staff. This came from the earlier staff report. So it's the city's map, and we appreciate the ability just to lift it off. And the zoning again shows it's commercial with industrial zoning to the east, north, and southeast. And there you have the arterial classification map. Again, 66th Street is a state principal arterial. We concur with in the staff report that was before you the last time this was presented to you. And while at that point the Planning Commission had recommended denial, so it's hard to see why staff is now recommending denial when the exact same facts, the exact same circumstances, the exact same Planning Commission recommendation were all before staff when this matter was scheduled to be heard about a month ago. And that concerns me and it bothers me, and I think you need to go back and look at the previous staff report, which is the staff report with which we concur and adopt, which covers all issues. One issue that was mentioned in the last hearing was the parking of derelict vehicles and so on. There are copious number of pictures. I thought I overdid it when I take site photographs, but I obviously not, given the number of photos that are part of the original staff report. There was only the one little trailer off to the side that shows up in the staff photos of the site, which of course were taken in the daytime. And that same vehicle was there when I did my field work. It was there again more recently. But there's certainly no storage of derelict vehicles on the site. The proposed conditions of approval from your previous staff report are acceptable to the applicant and will be fulfilled. The site is a little over 2 acres, 87,991 square feet, with 303 feet of frontage on 66th Street and 290 feet of frontage on 123rd Avenue. It probably started off at some dimensions of the old imperial measurement system, and land was taken for the widening of 66th Street over the years. The building is 12,080 square feet, built in the early 1980s, annexed into the city in 2006, demolished and a new building built in 2008. The adjacent uses are commercial and light industrial on all sides, with no schools, churches, or places of worship within 500 feet, and no nearby residential uses or zones. I think the deputy police, I don't understand where the deputy police chief came up with the thought that there was residential on 123rd. I don't think there is, but I've only been down there a couple of times. He's probably been down there more recently, so that's a question of fact that probably needs to be resolved. Although planning staff indicated no residential in the area. It was originally a country and western bar, and to the amazement of my friends, I won't say I frequented it, but I did patronize it 2 or 3 times in days gone by. The nature of the speech and the entertainment has changed, but the land use function, a place of assembly and entertainment, remains unchanged. It was a lawful use in unincorporated Pinellas County and agreed to limited hours of operation, and in 2008 was permitted according to the conditional use permit granted for the approval of the use. It changed hands. The business closed partly due to COVID, and a thought that occurred to me as I was listening to the earlier presentations, there was legislation, if I recall correctly, in 2020 or 2021 that extended existing permits that were delayed because of the pandemic and the closures that resulted from it. And one of the things that Mr. Leroux and I will do, regardless of the outcome of this evening's proceedings, is to check if that legislation has any applicability to your consideration of whether or not the use lost its CUP. So this application ensued, but the nature of the entertainment and the identity of the owner are immaterial. Again, it's designated general commercial, which is intended to provide county and community-wide commercial services. Permitted uses include commercial and recreation. The uses within the permitted floor area ratio and permitted impervious surface ratio in the CUP, as staff found in the previous staff report, was consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff, again in the previous staff report, found the proposed conditional use of a tavern and lounge is appropriate for the commercial general land use category and considered a primary use. Again in the previous staff report, and again I don't see anything that's changed since the previous report. Staff finds that the proposed use is consistent with and supported by the land use designation and the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. It's also consistent with the zoning. Zoning is B1 general commercial, established to identify and provide those geographic areas in the city that are appropriate for the development of general commercial environment, wide variety of consumer uses, and activities located in proximity to major thoroughfares. Well, we're obviously in proximity to a major thoroughfare because we abut one. Now here is, I think, the most critical item for your consideration. And Mr. Denhart or Mr. Leroux will correct me if I'm wrong, but we comply with the compliance with the conditional use requirements is the critical thing. You have a parking requirement for a tavern. We meet that requirement. We have all these, each and every one, as staff found in its previous report, each and every one of these criteria is met by the applicant. There are some other issues, that's undisputed, but they are separate and apart from your consideration of whether or not the application strictly complies with the conditional use permit requirements. It's neither adjacent nor functionally adjacent to residential zoning district. Staff concurs both now and previously. It's not within 500 feet of a parcel of land used as a place of worship or education. Staff concurs now and previously. It has frontage on an arterial or collector road with the ingress not to occur via a local street. That's another issue that we'll deal with in a few moments. But we have frontage on an arterial road. Closest residential zoning district is about 410 feet across the multi-lane divided principal arterial. There are no sensitive institutional uses within 500 feet, and a waiver is requested to the access requirement. The waiver requirements, the waiver is consistent with the comprehensive plan, that's undisputed. The waiver is consistent with the statements of intent of the applicable zoning district. Well, it's not a zoning waiver, it's a waiver of the access requirement. The waiver will not adversely impact the public interest. It will show that it will support the public interest by preserving the traffic flow on 66th Street. And the waiver is not discriminatory given similar situations. Well, all land is always unique because its location is just automatically unique, but there's no other situation in the city of which I'm aware that would be similar in nature. Then if you look at the common law criteria for a variance or a waiver, it's an unusual hardship. Yes, it's got a strange frontage on 66th Street, and I'll testify in just a moment that we can't actually physically put the driveway on 66th Street. It's not self-created because the access since the 1980s has been off 123rd. There's no special benefit conferred on the developer because we're preserving the traffic flows on 66th Street. It's in the public interest, again, to preserve the traffic flows on 66th Street. And either the driveway's on 66th Street or it's on 123rd, so there's no question of whether or not it's a minimum variance required. Now, there is tension between the desire to protect local streets versus unimpeded traffic flows. Those are two competing planning principles that we run into periodically as planners. I'm sure staff have encountered this on more than one occasion. I know I certainly have. But this is not, and if this were a residential street with houses across the street, leading to more houses where people are coming and going as residential household members do, that would be one thing. But it's purely industrial back there, and there's no residential, so there's nobody who is adversely affected, although certainly the police chiefs, the police deputy chiefs showing of that video with the parking. On the other hand, you think of the revenue stream that you could get for the parking tickets on 123rd if you took jurisdiction over that. The intersection geometry, you've got a northbound right turn onto 123rd. 123rd is right only northbound. You can't get across to, can't enter the property from southbound 66th Street, and you can't exit 123rd onto 166. You've got to go up to the next, to or from the southbound lanes, you've got to go up to the next, median cut and make the turn. I think it's about 21, I can't read that from here, but the traffic count is shown on the slide. And what is also important is there is a bus bay on northbound 66th Street, and DOT has a minimum of 200 feet per opening, and you've only got 303 feet, so you don't have enough room to put another exit or entrance onto 66th Street between the entrance immediately north of the watering trough and 123rd. There's the traffic count, 32,000 ADT. Lengthy, very lengthy southbound left turn lane from 66 to 123rd, and the bus bay that I mentioned.
That is the applicant's 15 minutes, so if you do have just a few more seconds to wrap it up, you may do so.
Thank you. The access, these are aerials over the years. The access since the beginning has been off 123rd, and that's how it was approved by the county. It may have been mandatory at the time not to have the access on the arterial road. It's always been from 123rd. There's never been a driveway to 66th Street. Those are the plan policies. FDOT would prefer the access be from 123rd. And as I say, it might have been mandated in 1980. The spacing rules militate against access to 66th Street.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the PowerPoint into evidence, please.
We have it on our files.
That's fine.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
At this time, are there any proponents that would like to come up and speak on behalf of the applicant? He's provided the applicant's information, correct?
I'm not sure what's going on. Your client apparently wishes to speak, and I think your 15 minutes has been used up.
Your 15 minutes has been used, so we have to go to proponents, opponents,
Understood.
and any additional questions.
Nothing more thrilling than those zoning presentations, but I know we're out of time, and all I'll say is tell us what terms and conditions will work, and we'll adhere to them. And we'll wait and hear what everybody else has to say. Thank you.
Seeing no proponents for this project, are there any opponents of this project? Anybody that would like to speak against? And seeing none, does City Council have any questions for the applicant? Councilmember Butler.
You know, I look at this and I've been studying it. Of course, I knew when it was operating under the old use, which the watering trough used to have people on golf carts that would actually patrol that avenue and make sure there was no parking violations or whatever. And actually, that road is kind of different because there is some warehouses there, but there is some residential uses above the warehouse that some of the employees live there and whatever. It's not a great amount, I mean, but there's probably 10 or 12 people that do live back there. Now, back during the heyday of that building, they also did a parking agreement with Hardy Huntley across the street. And I think one of the worst things that's ever happened is one of the people walking across the street to get the parking was hit and killed. I got to tell you, the numbers of folks there and how it was explained that they weren't aware of any other sites in this city. Well, I got Quaker Steak and Lube that has 500 bikers every Wednesday and Thursday night, and I don't have any shootings. Oh, and if that ain't enough, right across the street at OCC, there's another 800 bikers that go there, and there's no shootings. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but those venues are fairly large. The other problem that I have is this property is a blank slate to us. I cannot believe in all the years that someone didn't renew their BTR. How stupid is that? If someone would have renewed the BTR, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be discussing this.
Do you have any questions of them?
Okay, yeah, I do have questions.
Yes.
Okay.
I appreciate your comments, sir.
Okay, I would like to understand, I hear the planner, and I hear all the problems with the property, but I have not yet seen an organized, this is what we're willing to do. This is what we're going to do with the fine. This is what we're going to do with the parking. This is what we're going to do with that. This is what we're going to do. Do you guys have a liquor license?
Yes, we have one in place, sir.
Okay, you have a liquor license? Yeah, that's fine. I'm just wondering. It's a liquor. So is this going to be,
Excuse me,
Name
just
and
a-
address for the
Yes,
record,
sir. My name's
please.
Jonathan Bell, 1668 25th Avenue North, and yes, I have been sworn in.
okay, is this going to be a bar tavern,
Yes, sir.
or is it going to be a special events
It's
type?
going to be a bar, well, under the guidelines of the city of Pinellas Park, it has to be a bar and tavern. You know, but you do have special events there like concerts and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know, just like any other venue,
Okay.
like OCC or
Sure.
or the other place. You know, with some of the things that were said about shootings,
Yeah.
from off 66th Street, that's nowhere near our property.
It probably wasn't generated for any reason why, right?
You
Yeah.
know, and when we came back to a hearing about 2 months ago in the summer,
Yeah.
they said the shooting was on Belcher.
Yeah.
Those are two. Then we got investigated about everything. Why hasn't there been a police report filed?
All right. All
There
right.
has not been a police report filed. Even if they say it was a shooting in the parking lot, there has not been a police report filed.
Okay.
The only police reports that have been filed were noise ordinance, where there's a lady that lives directly on a commercial property in back of us. So that's where those noise ordinances are coming from. Those phone calls. So
Yeah.
she lives on a commercial property, and she lives directly in back of the club.
Okay, there was a mention about adult entertainment. Is there any way this is going to be an adult? Okay.
No.
No.
And the word came up, you know,
Yes.
me and that kind of picked up.
That was Mr. McLaughlin's reminiscence about the location. Those types of businesses are relegated to those types of locations, but nothing to do with this operation.
And
So-
it just makes me feel
Yeah.
weird that all this stuff they say has happened, but there hasn't been a police report filed on it.
You know, I just seen some video there that was pretty, you know.
Well, that's just a lot of people in the vicinity. But we're actually talking about facts that where the club is an actual nuisance.
Yeah.
There has not been any shots fired at that club. We don't hire regular guys. We hire a private company for our security, outside security.
Right.
Inside is our regular people. Outside is a company. And the investigator from the police department, they called him and they interviewed their employees. Nothing came up.
You know, the thing though is to be able to take this thing and say, this is what I have. It's a blank sheet of paper. You know, I'd like to take care of that fine because that just keeps on going.
Yes, sir.
I mean, supposedly there either is a bus back there or a trailer.
That's a party bus.
Party
Yes,
bus.
it's my party bus. It belongs to the club.
Okay, and it's licensed.
Yes,
and-
sir.
Okay.
Tag registrations, everything's done.
Okay, so I mean, to me, you know, and I'm just a lay person, okay? But I think if I was gonna do something like this, I would kind of sketch out, this is what we plan to do. This is what we're gonna do on the front of the building to have no parking here. This is what we're gonna do to maintain parking down the road.
We had so much static from the city with trying to get this place even open. We were issued a BTR in the beginning. You know, we didn't open up until like February. So all this, okay, someone dropped a boat off. We weren't even in operate. It was in around this year, last year, that someone dropped 2 boats off in 2 weeks. We didn't even know whose boats they were.
It wasn't Luke's?
It might have been. No, but you know, it was something like that. Then they said, well, you guys can't get it towed off the property without the owners, without you knowing who the owner is. So we were like, well, we're going to just cut it up and scrap it. So we did that twice.
Right.
You know, so, and with those fences, those were old photos. That place does not look like that now.
Okay.
Those-
So what are the chances of you all going back and doing a game plan that would make sense to this city?
I could put it together within a week.
I mean,
The main thing is about us. Okay, we would like painting, landscaping, everything, fences. We'll do all of that.
I mean, it's just a sheet of paper that says this is what we agreed to do before we get our.
Yes, sir. We agree to all the terms that you guys, whatever you guys want us to do, we agree to do it. Everything.
I think we're gonna have to, if we're gonna do this, we have to do something about that parking. We can't authorize people to park like that,
sir.
and our police can't get into the places now.
sir.
Maybe an agreement to park across the street, maybe a bus bring them back and forth or something, but you can't park up and down that street and block those driveways like that.
What I can do-
Get a fire truck in there or
Yeah,
emergency.
that's probably one night out of many, you know, but it's not normally like that. That was a special event. They had a band from Mexico come in, and there was a lot of people that night. It's normally about 400 people there, and everyone parks in the parking lot.
Okay.
And let me suggest to my council members, my employers, that we're in the public hearing now, and there's still other parts to come in on the public hearing before you'll get to your deliberations or anything like that.
Those are the questions I have.
Councilwoman Reed?
Quick question. So on the liquor license, because this came up before, and I don't know because I've never dealt with liquor license, so is the liquor license to that, does it have to be to that building, to that
It has to
address?
be attached to that address.
So there is one issued if I look it up to that address?
No, we have one, it's not attached to that address, but we have one and we're ready to attach it to that address.
So,
But in the liquor license that we do have, it was from Bottoms Up Gentlemen's Club. It's we are legally allowed to have a catering event. So it's not like we were open 5 days a week. We're open 2, maybe 3 days a week. So we can cater alcohol from Bottoms Up to we call it the Palace, and we can have food brought in also as catered. And that required all that. You can. I should have brought everything with me, and I can show you. But with that license that we have, is a 4-cop, you can cater alcohol to another event that does not have a liquor license at that property.
can you sell it?
Yes, but it
to-
belongs to Bottoms Up. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't belong. The liquor doesn't belong to the watering trough.
They're renting it.
Yes.
So they're renting it. So then you're going to take the license from Bottoms Up and attach it to that address?
Yes, we are.
And then you can run the license, I'm just asking for
Yes.
information, so you can
So
then
we'll
run
have this-
under one license, two places?
No, one license, one place.
Right.
We're going to move the license from Bottoms Up to the Palace or the watering trough.
Then what are you going to do with the license that was at Bottoms Up?
That is a license.
You can only have it in one place, so,
We're gonna move it to one place. That's it. We're not gonna open up Bottoms Up.
okay. I don't know what Bottoms Up is, I'm just asking.
Where the girl was on the sign, that we got so much.
Oh,
A long time ago. That was
Okay.
that was before us.
We're haunted by this theme apparently, but.
it was mentioned by you guys, not us.
No, I understand.
Okay. Any
That was it, I
additional
just wanted to understand that. Okay.
I have a few questions. One, in good faith, the parking lot should have already been cleaned up. There should have been no more fines. That should have already been taken care of. Liquor license in good faith should have already been moved over. Occupational license, which is now called a BTR, should have already been purchased. You are referring to paving additional spots, which means you're going to have a drainage report done on that property. And all of the additional items, i.e. the drainage that was already supposed to be on site that got covered up, filled in, needs to come back into compliance. That hasn't been done yet either. You said you're going to be removing the driveway that got put in that wasn't on the original plans. All of these items should, because it's been a couple of months since we saw you, should have already been done. In good faith, coming back to city council saying, we've done our part, now you do your part. You guys haven't done your part yet. That's kind of embarrassing, that you haven't even started your part.
Yes, we've started it.
I drove by the other day, there's still fence stuff that's all rickety and everything else.
Are you talking about the fence outside? There's no fences outside.
I'm talking about the poles and the driveways, and things like that. You haven't taken covering up the dumpster without getting a permit, Do you know that you're supposed to get a permit when you do construction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then why wasn't one done?
Well, it was supposed to have been done, but.
Okay, see, there's not a lot of good faith coming.
Totally understand.
So,
And
the end of 123rd, just to let Mr. McLaughlin know, just to let you know, If you drive all the way down to the dead end road, there's residential on both ends. Okay, there is residential down on the east side going towards US 19 on 123rd. So you guys kept saying there's no residential down there. There is residential down there. And so with all of those cars parked the way they were, if somebody needed services, you could have very well impeded their services.
Yes.
And it could have caused a death or something of that nature. Be a good neighbor. Go knock on those industrial places and say, hey, at night on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, can we have your lot for parking? Get a golf cart to transport people instead of them parking on there. Do some good faith. So that's my questions and my statement.
I know that there was an application for BTR, so we tried to take some incremental steps. There's a lot to be done, and that was one of the first steps, and that proved to be unsuccessful based on dependency of other matters.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, again, the reason I asked for the continuance last time, I haven't been around to guide my clients the way I normally would. I was going through those cancer treatments. In fact, that's why I bought the breast cancer T-shirt the last time I was here. I only finished those earlier this week, but now I'm back in action, and I can actually work much more hand in glove with my clients because I've been doing this a long time. I've known Bruce for 30 years, and as I said, he's the most exciting speaker I've ever seen. But you know, in most of what we have to do here is it's clear, and we know that we need people to walk around and make sure that the parking is handled. I mean, there would be, from my perspective, there's no lawsuit worse than having some issue where someone is hurt or actually suffers damages because of somebody parking trying to go to a nightclub. I mean, that's a ridiculous way to have to conduct a business. We can do it right. I know how to guide these clients to do it right. And
Maybe talk the county into putting some streetlights down that road because it's not our road, it's theirs.
How much time do you think you might need for that?
I defer to my client here, but we know what needs to be
To
done.
get everything done, a week and a half.
To pave the parking lot?
No, we can't.
They can't pave the parking lot. That parking lot is pervious for a reason because it's supposed to be drained.
It is. There are drained. There is a lot of drainage in that parking lot. Every row, there's 2 drains in every row.
Yeah.
And they are wide open. They're
I know.
yeah. There are 2 drains, major drains on every row of that parking lot at each end.
Yeah, you might want to have an engineer check that out.
Okay. Also, one suggestion, I could come one night and play the guitar. I'm sure there won't be more than 4 people show up, so.
That was the other thing too, with it, it's going to become a tavern, so anybody and everybody can walk in there and get a beer or get liquor.
Oh, yeah.
And then occasionally get food. Your sales are going to be 50% from alcohol at that place.
Yes.
Okay, because there was, if it's a venue and the ticket prices cost this much, are you going to be able to sell that much? Which of course then you'll need a designated driver, I hope.
It can be done in good faith and lawfully.
But you know what I'm saying? Everybody loves going to concerts and having a good time. But I just want to make sure that balance is in there somewhere.
And another thing with this, with everything going back and forth, I'm gonna speak on Mr. Driscoll's behalf, is that he didn't really feel like you guys were gonna give us a BTR. That's why he didn't want to put in the work. He wanted to know if we can get it. If we do this, are you guys gonna guarantee us a BTR? We'll do everything you need us to do.
I think if we make a good faith showing that our effort will be recognized by the city and everybody will deal with this in good faith. So I think it's our turn to make a good faith impression.
I know council would like to still deliberate, but I want to clarify just a couple of points. I know staff has time for questions after council discussion or questions. Nick Colonna, a community development administrator. I'm also AICP certified, 20-year practicing planner, plus I'm not going to recognize my age. As far as the BTR is concerned, BTR was applied for. It was revoked. The BTR was revoked because it was issued in error by staff because the application was for an event hall. Event hall is not permitted in a B1, not permitted at that site, and also there is a covenant that's specific to the tavern. So that was revoked. So there's no BTR in place.
Understood. With
that. So I want to make that clear. In terms of a fence, I know you've taken down some portions of fence. You did apply for a fence permit. You did extend it. but that expired and haven't been back in since then for the fence. You could apply for that at any point. So clarification is it's just not, I heard a term nightclub a few times. Got to understand that this is strictly a tavern, no event hall, not even permitted in the B1 district. That it's just not. So I just want to make that clear for City Council, and I'll save my time for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it because we want to stick to this.
And Mr. Colonna, you were sworn in earlier, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Bruce McLaughlin, we did ask to purchase the business, or pay the business tax within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and staff declined to accept our money pending the outcome of this. So again, that was a good faith effort. And Megan, I'm sure will.
One good faith effort. There's a stack of them. So,
Right,
thank you.
The driveway permit too.
Councilmember Seville, Vice Mayor Seville, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. How many parking spaces do you plan on having?
It's like about 176. Something like that.
176. Okay. Well, don't you think it'd be much better to have ingress, egress off of 66th Street?
They'll never get it.
Can't get it because there's a bus stop.
Have you applied to PSTA or anybody to remove the bus stop? Because
Madam Mayor, Bruce McLaughlin, we've spoken to FDOT, and their preference is to leave it where it is because of the spacing issues on 66th Street. I mean, I don't think in the current regulatory situation they would deny the application, but as I said in my testimony, there's tension between the preserving the traffic flows and preserving the local street. I think the better remedy is to leave it where it is and where it's been since the early 80s.
I believe every other business along 66th Street goes off of 66th Street and back on 66th Street.
No, the place directly across from us, they don't have any access directly towards 66th Street Avenue. Their access is up 123rd Avenue.
Is that north of you?
No, they're south of that, but they're on 66 and 100.
It's the property adjacent to you.
It's no direct traffic flow from 66.
And what kind of, do you know what kind of business they run out of
They
that?
have a couple of different businesses there, automotive shop and a bed lining shop. It's about 4 or 5 different businesses.
Probably not near the traffic flow that a tavern is.
Not something that's at that stature. That place is just like 900 person capacity. At that place, and where we have significant amount of parking spots.
Oh, yep. We have some people in the audience saying they can't hear you because you're not in front of the mic.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do have enough parking spots for that capacity. We went through with the fire department. We do have enough parking spots. That place is 12,000 square feet. With the one building, we take up. If we turn it to the side, it'll take up that whole property on right across the street from us. So.
I'm here. Okay, Councilmember Mullins.
I got a question for staff. Did I just hear you say just a few minutes ago that this tavern BTR that we're giving them would not let them have events?
It's for the model that appears to be operating, a tavern and lounge has limited seats, and 50% of its use has to be derived from alcohol. So it's not from ticket sales, it's not from sales for having concerts, things of that nature. So I believe I know their initial application was for event hall, which is something grander than a tavern and lounge. The restriction, because of the covenant, limits it just tavern and lounge. A. B. If there wasn't a restriction on that, the B1 district that it's in does not permit an event hall. So that's just not permitted at that location. So that's that part. And just for clarification, the applicant did come in to pay for the BTR, but unfortunately to get the BTR, they need the conditional use this evening for the tavern. So they can have temporary events, which I have some questions later on for the applicant in terms of the business model that might clarify some of that.
Okay, I just make, if you can't have an event, if an event hall is not allowed on the property, and it seems to me like he's got his business is event hall and not tavern.
And the initial BTR was applied for that, and so was revoked because that was just an error. That's staff error, that was our mistake, we move on. But then, as was discovered, B1 allows for tavern lounge by conditional use on its own, and there's a covenant, an additional, that restricts it just to that. So no other B1 uses unless that is removed, and council is party to that. And at some point in time, you wish to remove that with the applicant, you can have that conversation. So they opens up to other uses, but an event hall, a nightclub, is not permitted at that location. And Erica, if I'm missing something, please jump in.
Yes.
What would be considered a tavern?
So bar.
This is a time for the.
I'm sorry.
For the council to ask you all questions.
Per our code, we feel like the way that they have been using the property, the use would be more toward what's called in our code an auditorium, arena, gymnasium, or other similar places for public or private events. That's a conditional use also in the B1 zoning district, but the requirements require a much, much larger property than what they have for that kind of venue.
So we're calling it a tavern, but he's wanting to use it as an event hall, but an event hall is illegal to have there.
Well, an event
Correct.
hall could also be dance lessons also. I mean, they could be doing line dance.
But they can't, they can't be an event hall on that piece of property.
Yeah, the thing is, you just can't call it an event.
Okay. Nick or Erica, either one or both. They can apply for the tavern permit and operate as a bar, and then occasionally apply for a special event. And how many a year of those would they be allowed to have?
They would be allowed to have 3 a year.
3 a year. 3 special events with like a concert type of setting. The rest of the year, bar.
Yes.
And at the bar lounge, would they be able to have a musician up on a stage or something?
Yes, if they had a musician and not that wasn't a whole concert, they would be able to have, some guy playing a guitar or any kind of music like that. That's more suited to what we consider a tavern.
Okay. Like a person that's acting as a jukebox for the night or something of that nature?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get a little clarification that you could have 3 special events during the year. The rest of the time, obviously a lot of bars and taverns have somebody that kind of does a self karaoke person or something of that nature, where you have a guy that plays a guitar or plays a keyboard or something of that nature to entertain the people that are patroning you.
On the 3 nights that you would do that, you'd have to come down the city and get a special permit.
Yes, sir.
Do you have set days and hours?
6 to 3. We really don't open up till 9.
But what days are you doing?
Just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that'd be 6 to 3, but I think
It's 6 to 2 is the rules and regulations.
6 to 2, not 3.
For the covenant.
Right?
6 to 2.
Okay, 6 to 2, okay.
It would
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, okay.
At that,
They're still, the public hearing is still open and your quasi-judicial procedures
council
still
has
have
been
some other.
council was able to ask questions of staff and of the applicant. And we did not have any opponents. We do not have any inquiry of opponents.
Nick has something.
And we have, now is the opportunity for staff to respond and give any additional summaries.
Before you get to response or additional summaries from staff, again, Nick Colonna, Community Development Administrator, I have a couple of questions for the applicant, for Mr. McLaughlin and Mr. Bell, and Mr. Bell, since you're standing up there. I'll ask you this. I think it's important to have clarification on the use and how things operate. Were you aware when, as acting for Mr. Driscoll, the agent now, am I correct?
Yes.
You were aware that the property was purchased with this deed restriction for the tavern?
No, we weren't aware.
Okay, because that's an important point, because that may be some of the, the misunderstanding on your team's side of it. So have you been operating, this is a tavern and lounge. Could you give a description of your business model that you've been using for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Well, what we normally do, like on Sunday, we have DJs come in, and that's exactly how it's been operated as a tavern. Saturdays, we have Mexican DJs from Mexico, and we fly them in. And like Fridays is hit and miss. We either do like a grown and sexy theme with DJs, or we do like when you guys saw on the presentation, that was a concert. That was a band. That was like a special event. That's what that was. And that's we have them maybe once a month, or maybe once every other month. So that's where we're really operating like a tavern, except when we did that big event. It's like a special event.
So you have the big event maximum. On average, how many people are at these events? On Friday, Saturday?
Big events about 700, 750. On average, about 400 people.
I think that's all I have, Mr. Bell. Mr. McLaughlin, I do have a couple of questions just to help me get your tutelage and perspective as well. So you mentioned on the slides the impacts. Would you agree that City Council could look at impacts outside taking the impact of the neighborhood as well? Because clearly, based on the video, it's not operating fully, in the tavern capacity. So there's impacts per parking in the residential, down 123rd. Would you agree that council has the leeway to look at that consideration?
I believe that council has to look squarely within the four corners of the criteria for the conditional use permit. And those criteria are outside the four corners of the.
And from a land use perspective and a use perspective, understanding the business model, what is your knowledge of the business model, and do you believe this operates as a tavern and lounge?
I haven't examined that question, so I don't have an opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mayor, thank you.
That's all.
All righty. Yes.
Mayor Matt,
Vice Mayor Seville.
did I hear you just say you're going to do one of those events every other month?
No, that's what we're doing.
That's what you
every
were
other
doing.
month or every 3 months. That's what we were doing before the past. So if we have to stay between those guidelines,
Once every 4 months would be 3 times a year, so I'm sure that adjustment can be made.
All righty. Any additional inquiries from City Council? And you were supposed to, Miss Erica.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out a couple things from our code. The criteria, we have conditional use review criteria, as I discussed in my presentation, and this is for all conditional uses in general. And a couple of the ones that I wanted to point out are whether the land area is sufficient, appropriate, and adequate for the use and reasonably anticipated operations and expansion thereof. And also whether the particular traffic generation characteristics of the proposed use is compatible with the traffic generation characteristics of other uses permitted and applicable to that neighborhood. And those are a couple that we're concerned that are not being met. One other thing, Mayor, you had pointed out that it's, this has been going on for quite a while. I just wanted to also give a reminder from my presentation that code compliance issued violations for unlawful keeping of junk. That was back in October 2021, so that's going back a year.
Thank you.
Would you say that first one again, please?
Yes.
The very first thing you said.
Sure. The conditional use criteria, then these are for all conditional uses in our code. And one is whether the land area is sufficient, appropriate, and adequate for the use and reasonably anticipated operations and expansion thereof.
Thank you. According to our rules and regulations, you are to have 5 minutes for rebuttal, but your presentation ran over, so I will give you 2 minutes for your rebuttal if you do not mind.
2 minutes will work. And again, I'll just focus on the last issue, the land use and whether it's suitable. Obviously, the video we saw, I don't think anybody disagreed that that was a problem. I've already admitted that that's not the way to operate a business for safety reasons, for traffic reasons, for every reason that the chief of police put on the record. But if we can limit that to 3 times a year, and I'm sure that there's an accommodation for special events, if 3 times a year, obviously we'd have to get some additional security out there to deal with the problem. But I think special events contemplate that. And I think that the regular tavern use would be more consistent with a much lesser impact on the area. And I think, as we've said before, there was a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of work to be done. If the council wants to consider imposing compliance with all of those as terms and conditions to grant the conditional use, we would be more than happy to do that. And candidly, if you want to have a probationary period just to allow my clients to prove themselves, I have no problem with that, because I think we know what the problem is. I think we know what the issues are, and I think that if they're given a chance to address those and continue to operate profitably, because I didn't mention this, but they've got a huge investment in this property. I mean, it's a very, very large effort on their part. To just have it come to an end would be devastating to them. And I think they understand that, so I know that the motivation to do their best and to make a much better appearance than they have, and as I said, I haven't been around to help, but I will personally assist these clients in doing everything possible to carry forward in good faith and be those good corporate citizens that I know that this city values. And quite honestly, that's where we are.
Thank you.
What's the fire capacity of that building? You can brief
91,000
people.
Vice Mayor Seville.
You may want to ask that. I see the fire chief itching toward the microphone. You may want to ask that of the fire chief.
Brett Schlauter, I'm the fire chief. The capacity is 982.
982.
That includes staff and everybody's
Right.
the occupancy of the building. The way it's set up now,
So
if they were to
700
change and put in
700
more
person crowd and
tables,
staff
chairs,
would-
and things, then that would have to be adjusted because it changes the
Just gives me an
occupancy
idea.
level.
Yeah,
Vice Mayor Seville.
yeah, Mayor, I got a question. We're gonna allow them to have special events, and they could have so many a year. I cannot see us allowing people to park on the 123rd Avenue or any of that right-of-way like that. We have buildings back there that may catch a fire that we're gonna have to respond to. Where are you gonna park all these people?
Well, I think the suggestion was
Because you're not gonna park them where you were.
No. And that clearly doesn't make sense. There's nobody can get through that. But obviously, I haven't had any time to explore trying to get some, parking agreements with the neighbors back there. And I know that there seems to be ample opportunities that have, the ability to put cars there as opposed to on 123rd Street. And, the hours of operation would be, they wouldn't compete with whatever businesses are operating that have that parking lot. And we have name them insurance beneficiaries. I mean, we do it the right way to make sure that everybody's protected. If our customers park in other people's property, they'd be fully protected for the use of that property. And I've created those kinds of agreements in other places of public assembly before. So there's a solution to that. The way that people are parking on 123rd is not the solution, and I think everybody agrees to that.
No, I know, and the one gentleman said we ought to be writing them tickets. I think too.
Well, our police officers aren't there to write tickets. They were there for public safety.
Sure. Parking like that is a public safety.
Any additional questions from City Council to staff or the applicants?
Sir? No, you.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Laughlin. No. This gentleman here.
Mr. Bell?
Bell. You know Loy?
Lloyd?
Loy? Who did
Loy, your shirt.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
He's a family member.
'Cause I have the same shirt at home. I only wear it when I play guitar in small groups.
You don't want to hear him play the guitar.
So we need to get you to come up and perform. Bring the city council.
We try. Yeah, she's a very special person.
She is.
Okay, any additional questions? Nope, okay. I am closing the public hearing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And entertain a motion.
Give me a timeline.
Can we make a motion to table this until a further date and let them bring back some kind of a plan that shows what they want to do? And let's go over that a little bit before we just kill this thing.
Certainly, the council has that prerogative, as I've told you all several times in several different matters. At a quasi-judicial proceeding, you don't have to determine it tonight. You can continue the proceeding. You can table it until a certain time, or you can table it until somebody has a plan. But if you do that, then it needs to be re-advertised, which is not a problem. And so you can either make a motion to approve it with or without whatever conditions you have, or to deny it, or to table the matter tonight until preferably a date certain.
They've shown good attempt here. I just want to make sure it's all safe and good and stuff like that. And I wouldn't mind, like the lawyer said, putting them on once they bring it to us, if it's something that we can live with, I wouldn't mind putting them on a probationary period to see if it works out to be actually going that way before we actually approve it.
We've actually done that before on other properties.
That's where I'm at with it. I don't want to sit and kill it. You know, we've got a lot of money invested into it, but I want to see it be safe and appropriate.
Okay, you ready for a motion?
On conditional uses, certainly you do have the right to put whatever conditions on you believe are appropriate and necessary in order to make the conditional use appropriate in the zoning district. So that's an option that you could do, yes.
Let's listen to Rick's motion.
You ready?
Yes.
Art.
Just 1 second. Vice Mayor Seville, I guess, has a question or a statement.
Yeah, I got a statement. You know, I just can't see, you know, it's not like, you know, they've got a whole lot invested in this. You're right, they do. Well, you know what? Before you make an investment, you look through it. You make sure what your plans are, what you want to do, are going to work before you go purchase something or. And so to me, if, you know, they didn't do their due diligence before they purchased the property. So I'm not going to sit here and feel guilty because they're losing out on a lot of money, you know. That's just my feelings that, you know, they should have, you know, looked at everything prior to purchasing something that maybe is not going to work for them. Maybe it'll work better somewhere else.
A quick one before. We can ask for a probation. They still have to meet all the criteria. They still have to get the liquor license where it needs to be, and and get everything straight, right? Before they would get that permit, before they would get the conditional use.
Before we even issue probation.
Right.
I would suggest to you that if your decision is going to be to grant a conditional use, that you not grant it and say, but you're on probation for a certain period of time. I would suggest that you see what the plan is, what is being proposed, and see if all the ducks are in a row, and then if it seems appropriate to grant the conditional use, if that's what you all feel is appropriate. It's your all's decision based upon the testimony and the evidence that you've heard at the public hearing tonight. Unless, and you would have the option if you tabled it also to reopen the public hearing at your next hearing if there's additional testimony to come in.
For council, just a clarification on council person's question on the alcohol license. To obtain the alcohol license, they would need the conditional use. So one of the suggestions stated here, if you decide to go down that road, is to look at what's being planned out is the first step, and then move forward from there. They just can't simply get the alcohol license without the conditional use approval.
They can have the duck, but not the necklace.
Yeah.
Sounds good. True.
Get the duck and the.
I've never heard that.
I actually understood that, but I'm from.
That's a northern.
That was just the first thing that came into my mind.
Somehow I know what it means. So.
Alcohol beverage licenses cannot be issued without the local zoning approval, which cannot be given unless.
Until they get
unless
all
there's a
the other
conditional
stuff
use.
taken, all those ducks in a row, get all that taken care of, and then, yeah. Then you can, Councilmember Vice Mayor, do you have any additional comments? Your light's still on.
Yeah, no, I just turned it on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely not in favor of putting someone on probation because, that's just stringing something along, and I'm just not in favor of that at all. I think that would be harder to stop something that you've allowed them to do than to make them do everything up front.
I think they were talking about the probation afterwards, not tonight. Just for clarification.
Say that again?
They were talking about the probation with the conditional use approval, not tonight.
Right, making them follow all those regulations to make sure they're doing it all right. And if they weren't doing it right, then you want to pull it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that at all, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Butler.
Y'all ready?
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we table case number CU-0522-00017 for a period of 30 days so the applicant can provide us with a timeline and a plan of how this is going to work. At the end of 30 days, instead of coming to City Council, I would like to workshop it first and then City Council afterward.
Second.
Motion's been made and second, and to clarify that would be the end of November, but that council meeting's on a Tuesday night, not a Thursday night, because of Thanksgiving being that week.
We could workshop it before.
Workshop and then
Yeah, we can.
City Council.
Yeah.
It's all on Tuesday night.
And again, that's
Same day.
And there's a second, but I just wanted to make a personal statement. This is in no way an approval or anything else until we see a legitimate timeline and a plan for this structure. Okay. Did you get that? Okay.
And if I may, the motion that I heard was to table it for 30 days.
Correct.
And not until a date certain, so it would not be rescheduled for a city council meeting unless and until you have your workshop, you do whatever, and it's re-advertised, re-noticed for a continuation then
So
of this
that would be
hearing.
the only December meeting then.
At the earliest, probably.
Okay, December.
Yeah, we'll
Workshop the last week before Thanksgiving on a Tuesday. And the only meeting in December would be the actual city council meeting, so that it could be advertised.
Got a second?
We have,
Second.
yes,
I did second.
Jerry did second it. So. All right.
Roll call vote?
No further discussion? Yes, no further discussion. So, there's not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose? 4-1.
Motion carries 4-1 with Vice Mayor Seville voting no.
Damn.
I have worked with Bruce on a couple of different projects over the years, so.
Send you back to California.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty. Item P2, ordinance number 4167.
Item number P2 is ordinance number 4167, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pinellas Park, Pinellas County, Florida, adopting a master plan and supporting documentation for a residential plan unit development, RPUD, overlay with underlying general commercial B1 and multifamily residential commercial R6 zoning on a 3.93 acre of land located at 9595 66th Street, and more particularly described in Exhibit A, which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, certifying consistency with the city's adopted comprehensive plan, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, to the extent of such conflict, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Item P2, ordinance number 4167, public hearing, second and final reading. This is also quasi-judicial. I am opening the public hearing and turning it over to Erica Lindquist.
Thank you. Again, I'm Erica Lindquist, Planning and Development Services Director. I'm presenting case number PUD 0322-00008. The request is a residential plan unit development, or RPUD, to develop 32 townhomes at 9595 66th Street. And this property is the former Foxwood Farms property. The property has split zoning, so it has B1 general commercial on the majority of the property, and the east end of the property is zoned R6. The land use is commercial general, CG, and that's across the entire property. The property is located in flood zone X, a low-risk flood zone. And here is the property history. So the original zoning was R6 on the west side, farm on the east side. In 1975, the west side of the property was rezoned from R6 to B1. In 1982 is when City Council approved the non-conforming use of a horse stables. And in 1990, the east portion of the property was rezoned from farm to R6. And here's the site plan. The 32 lots are shown in orange. The stormwater ponds are blue, and green is where they have a proposed amenity, which would include a pool. And there in red, you see the fence and the gates, and this would be a gated community. They are proposing a landscape plan that meets our code. And in summary, the allowable density is 15 units per acre on this property, so 60 units would be permitted, but 32 units are proposed, and these would be two-story townhomes. The residential PUD allows townhome-style lots with no minimum lot size and reduced setbacks to provide space for the pool and stormwater retention. As I said, there is a pool proposed on the west side of the property, and they are only a quarter-mile walk from Helen Howarth Park and the Forbes Rec Center. So these are setbacks for the 32 individual lots, and this was these setbacks were included. Sorry. The front yard setback is a 20-foot setback per code, and the proposed setback is 0 feet. The secondary front yard is a 20-foot setback per code, 0 feet proposed. The side yard is 5 feet or 10 if abutting residential zoning, 0 feet are proposed, and the rear yard 15 feet and 5 feet proposed. But setbacks for the whole property as a whole would meet code. The findings are 32 single-family attached townhomes on the site would meet the density requirements. A pool amenity is proposed for the site, and the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code regulations. Staff recommends approval of this case. And on July 7th, the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval of the case with the following condition. They asked that they install bollards and a curb at the end of the street that runs north-south and terminates at the retention pond. And here is, in red here is the location of where they wanted the bollards and curb to be installed. And that, again, is just Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. And thank you. I am here for any questions.
Any questions of Erica?
Nope.
No. Vice Mayor Spill.
Yes, Erica, do they have to widen the entrance coming off of 66th Street for their roadway?
Oh, okay. The applicant is here, and they can probably respond to that question.
One more question, Erica. When you were talking about the front yard, side yard setbacks of 0 feet?
And yes, and that would be for just those 32 individual lots that are shown in orange here.
But they're not, that looks more, they're not abutting the fence. So I would think that it's more than 0 feet. So if there's a lot line for the platting of the properties versus the actual setback off of the fence,
Right.
we need to know those numbers.
So what's highlighted in orange, those will be platted into individual lots. So that's what those setbacks are to. So the structure is to the individual lot line that's created. The remaining parcels, so like the pool area, those will meet the general B1 setbacks.
And Megan, your name for the record, and you
Oh,
were sworn as
my
well.
apologies. Megan Montesino, Development Review Manager, and I have been sworn in.
Okay, and they're not platting their driveways, their own driveways on those?
They are not, which the applicant can address.
Explain.
Megan, could you clarify if this is a private or public street?
The one they're creating?
Yes.
It will be a private.
Thank you. And those that could not hear Nick, he was asking whether the street was private or public. Okay. So, no additional questions for staff? The applicant is before us. Name and address for the record and whether we
Thank
were
you.
sworn in.
Jeremy Couch with Tampa Civil, 17937 Hunting Bow Circle, Lutz, 33558, and I have been sworn. I'm here representing the applicant, which is Shalfin Group, and hopefully soon to be Lennar Homes. Thank you. I've prepared a presentation that I can run through, but I think your last case was a little bit longer than you expected, so we'll go ahead and save any of those questions and answer specifically. Your first question, Vice Mayor, could you remind me again what your question was?
How wide the opening is going to be, the street cut?
So Pinellas Park Code restricts our opening to 40 foot. We would have liked to have a little bit wider, but we have accommodated that. We actually have our notice of intent for permit issuance from the FDOT. So the configuration that you see on one of the slides, Megan, if you could go to slide. Oh, this is it. Thank you. It's fancy. This is the configuration of the access that the FDOT has approved, which gives adequate turnaround for a large vehicle if they pull in before a slide gate. Mayor, your question about the platting, The purpose of this is because underneath those driveways, we're going to have a lot of service providers. We're going to have power, we're going to have communications. And so with communities like this that are tight, we like to have maximum common area. That way the HOA can make sure it's well maintained. And then in the rear, we will plat out a certain distance to where there's a backyard before any type of fencing or anything for the drainage along the rear starts. So that's really what it is. It's a maintenance thing. And again, these are minimums. We could plat further, but this gives us maximum flexibility.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because you want your own driveway. You know, with you not platting it, neighbor has guest over, they can park in your driveway. Because it's not your driveway, trying to save you some HOA issues later down the road.
We have no issue platting across the driveways to the back of sidewalk.
Because they'll come to city council and complain to us, even though, because HOAs go defunct as well. We've had that problem over the years. So, if you were,
That's no problem at all. We could plat to the back of the sidewalk as a condition if council saw fit to approve.
there's always the 5-foot right-of-way, but, and that would be very, I think, adequate for all of the utilities and save you heartache in the future. So, Vice Mayor Sabille?
Yes, thank you. So you got a 40-foot cut on 66th Street, correct? And then you got an island. Is that an island I'm looking at?
Yeah,
That's your push the button, I want to come in.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering if that push-the-button thing you want to come in is going to interfere with a ladder truck trying to enter that property being two-story, is my question.
So you mean if you look at this configuration, let me see if this has a pointer here.
Does it have a pointer on it, Megan?
It does, but it doesn't appear on the TV because of
Can you point on there and let him talk then, since you're familiar with the plan? Right in that area.
So you have, in the center there, I'm getting old, 24 feet of straight through, and we usually have a scanner with stickers on the passenger side, so residents pull forward. Folks that are trying to punch the button go along the outside. If the fire department pulls up, they hit their Knox horn, and the gates automatically open.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about them opening the gate. I was just wondering if there's enough turn radius there. And I guess maybe I should defer that question to the chief.
Brett Slaughter, Fire Chief. I was sworn. The requirement by code for fire code is actually 20 feet. The building department actually requires 24. We only require 20. So it should be consistent with what is allowed by our fire code. If they have made any sharp turns or really sharp or bad turns, we wouldn't approve the plan when it comes through.
Thank you.
Councilmember Butler?
Yeah, the back of the property adjoins our horse trail, and it always seems to be some type of a drainage issue. So I want to just make sure on record that that's not going to be the case once you guys get done, because it's always been a wet area over there after it rains, and most of that water comes off at Foxwood now. So we just want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yes, sir. We have analyzed the drainage system. We should have our swift mud permit any day now. And what we found is that the majority of where those paddocks were slope off really quickly to the southeast. And I've walked it a couple times. I've seen where your staff has created a swale through that area and over into the ponds that are in the park. We're putting in some pretty significant retention ponds, as you can see. So I'm very confident our system will work.
Anything else you would like to present to us?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions on this item?
Gary Migdal, 9975 66 Way North. My concern is...
Were you sworn in, Gary? Were you
I was
sworn
sworn in, yes.
Okay, thank you.
My concern is the entrance to this property. If you're going south on 66th Street, you're going to have to make a U-turn at 90th 4th Avenue to turn around and go back in. The turn lane there is extremely short. The turn arrow is extremely short. If you're lucky, you'll get 3 vehicles to make a turn on the turn arrow. Okay? When the turn arrow goes off, it's virtually impossible between 3 and 7 o'clock at night to make a turn. You have to wait. Now, you're going to have people coming in here to turn into here. You're going to have people backing up on 66th Street. You're asking for an accident. Okay? If you go down 1 block to make a U-turn to come back, you're causing a problem on 94th Avenue with the turns. I just want to know if the city's addressed that situation, because that's going to be something very dangerous in the future. And the fact that I live 2 blocks up the road, I know getting out on 66th Street to go south or to go north even, you're sitting there for 10, 15 minutes to make a turn. So yeah, I just want to make sure that the city council is aware of that situation that they're going to develop with these extra people there, because there's no cut through. And I'm at 100th Avenue, so, and the turn to go on 94th Avenue is right now it's ludicrous. And it's just going to make it worse.
Megan, have they presented that, which we don't ever get, a traffic study for this property?
Sorry. No, this one we did not have one, but again, like you said, it's not required of them to provide one. But we can definitely request one of them.
Well, they would probably have to submit one to FDOT, so maybe we can get a copy of it so that Gary and other citizens might be able to see it.
Should be County Road.
Or county. That's correct. Yeah. County will make them do one as well. So.
I don't know if I need.
Yes, sir.
Nick Colonna, Community Development Administrator. Mayor, thank you for bringing that up. To your point, if this is approved and it's permitted during site plan review, this will be looked at. So it's covered. And then
I know that we don't always request them, but I know Pinellas County does, FDOT does, for any curb cuts onto their
we can make that
roads.
request, and it would be looked at as well during.
Well, I'm just, if he's going to have to do one, it would be good for him to share it so that our citizens can see it.
Exactly.
So. All righty. Anybody else that has any questions? Seeing none, do you need to add anything else?
Jeremy Couch. No, ma'am, I just would like the council to know that we have gone through the DOT process. We were delayed, I think, by a misnotice. So we last came here in July, and because of the hurricane, and I don't know what other due process issues there were, we're not here until October. We actually have a DOT permit for our access. They've analyzed our traffic, they've analyzed our turns, and they've analyzed our driveway, and have issued permission to build it.
So you have a traffic study that you can share
Yes, I
with
can
staff
send-
for
Yes,
citizens to
we
look
can send
at?
you our access, yes.
Thank you. Any additional questions? I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. We have no takers. Oh, Councilmember Butler.
Okay, I make a motion we approve case number PUD-0322-00008 first reading?
Second.
First and final?
Wait a minute. What was he reading? Yeah.
Second and final.
Second and final reading on P2.
Second again.
A motion has been made in second. Any discussion by city council?
First day.
All those in favor? Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Moving on to item P3, ordinance number 4172.
Item P3 is ordinance number 4172, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pinellas Park, Pinellas County, Florida, adopting a master plan and supporting documentation for a residential plan unit development, RPUD, overlay with underlying duplex residential R4 zoning on the 3.43 acres of land located at 7041 34th Street, and more particularly described in Exhibit A, which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, certifying consistency with the city's adopted comprehensive plan, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Item P3, ordinance number 4172's public hearing, second and final reading. It is also quasi-judicial. I am opening up the public hearing and turning it over to Erica.
Thank you. Again, I'm Erica Lindquist, Planning and Development Services Director. I am presenting into the record case number PUD 0722-00015. And this request is for a residential plan unit development, or RPUD, to develop 15 single-family detached dwelling units. And the property is located at 7041 34th Street North. It is zoned duplex residential R4. And the land use is residential low medium RLM. This is in flood zone X. Here is a look at the site plan. The shaded areas are going to be private property, will not be maintained by the city. They'd be maintained by the homeowners association. And that would include the pond area and a couple of dead end rights of way, yeah. This property was annexed from Pinellas County in January 2022 with the intention of constructing a single-family subdivision. And part of the annexation provisions included the setbacks: front 20 feet, secondary front 12 feet, side 5 feet, rear 20 feet, the minimum lot width of 45 feet and minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet for all lots, and up to 65% impervious lot coverage. And as I said, these have already been approved as part of the annexation. The R4 zoning max density is 10 units per acre and 34 dwelling units would be permitted. The applicant is proposing 15 dwelling units. Our findings are that the RPUD would include 15 single-family lots. The proposed density is significantly lower than the maximum allowable density, and the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, CRA plan, and land development code. Staff recommends approval of this case. And on September 1st, the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval. Thank you, and I am here for any questions.
Thank you, Erica. Public hearing has been opened. Would the applicant like to come up and speak on this item? Name and address for the record and whether you were sworn in or not, sir.
Good evening. Matt Silverane, Gulf Coast Consulting, 13825 Alcott Boulevard, Suite 605, Clearwater, Florida, 33760, and I was sworn in. Thank you, Ms. Lindquist, for your thorough and concise presentation. This property was annexed, as she mentioned, in January, and we have been consistent with all of the requirements brought forward by this annexation. And I'd like to highlight as well that the density per the RLM is 10 units per acre, and we are only proposing 4.4 units per acre. The RPUD would lock us into the 15 units that we are proposing, so we couldn't propose any more units. And also, I'd like to mention that the project would be compatible with the surrounding areas, which are all single-family attached homes. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Matt. So, does anybody have any questions of the applicant?
This is scary. This is a nice one to do. No arguing, no
Much
nothing.
less density than he's allowed.
Nice job. Very nice.
You have to tell Robert that it went like this.
I sure will.
Are you working for Prillo?
He works with Robert, yes.
And he put this in like this?
He did.
Jeez.
So, is there anybody in the audience that has any questions on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion by Councilmember Butler.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 4172, public hearing, second and final reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Even Keith approved this one. I think he will. Nice job.
Thank you, Matt. Have a good evening.
Yeah, tell Robert we said hello.
Tell him he can send you back if he wants to.
Anytime.
Moving on to section 4, consent agenda, item C1.
Item number C1 is to approve the authorization for the city manager to negotiate with the firms recommended by the Valuation Committee and order preferences recommended for lobbying services, RFP 22/003. Item C2 is authorization for the mayor to accept a general warranty deed for property at 7600 43rd Street North. Item number C3 is authorization for the city of Pinellas Park to accept a right-of-way easement for property at 6015 82nd Avenue North. Item C4 is authorization for the city of Pinellas Park to accept a right-of-way easement for property at 7128 60th Street North. Item number C5 is resolution number 22-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pinellas Park, Pinellas County, Florida, expressing its support of the medical device manufacturing company identified in case number AVTE-22-01 as a qualified economic development ad valorem tax exemption applicant, subject to the requirements of 196.1995 Florida statutes, authorizing improvements and/or tangible personal property additions to be made by the medical device manufacturing company identified in case number AVTE-22-01 under the City of Pinellas Park Economic Development ad valorem tax exemption process, subject to adoption of an exemption ordinance for case number AVTE-22-01, providing for an effective date. Item number C6 is authorization for the City of Pinellas Park to accept a utility easement for property at 7725 78th Street. Item number C7 is resolution number 22-26, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pinellas Park, Pinellas County, Florida, authorizing the city manager to apply to Ford Pinellas for the 2023 Complete Streets Concept Planning Program to create a complete streets concept plan for 60th Street North between 82nd Avenue North and 70th Avenue North, and to apply for the 2023 Multimodal Priority Project Program to construct complete streets improvements along 78th Avenue North between 66th Street North and 49th Street North, and providing for an effective date. Item number C8 is resolution number 22-27, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pinellas Park, Pinellas County, Florida, modifying, ratifying, and confirming rates charged by the City of Pinellas Park to its customers for garbage, trash, or refuse and solid waste and recycling collection, only to the extent to provide to cover increased costs suffered by the city's solid waste contractor, Waste Management, Inc. of Florida, as a result of its increased costs suffered both as a result of inflation, but also as a result of the increased cost of disposal of recyclables as a result of the change in laws and regulations by the People's Republic of China and other recycling processors. Otherwise, ratifying past rates charged by the city and confirming the continuance of such rate schedule except as changed herein, providing for an effective date. Item number C9 is to approve authorization for donation to Pace Center for Girls in the amount of $20,000 from the confiscated property fund. Item number C10 is to approve authorization to purchase for budget year 2022-2023 from Millennium Products, Inc., one solar-powered surveillance monitoring trailer for $38,850. Item number C11 is the award of bid 22/005, the Cross Bayou Canal Culvert Replacement at 102nd Avenue North, and that is to Keystone Excavators, Inc., in the amount of $1,689,857.07. Item number C12 is authorization for the mayor and city manager to sign a joint project agreement with Pinellas County for the design and construction of a bridge at 102nd Avenue North in the Cross Bayou Canal. Item number C13 is the appointment of Fire Chief Slaughter as a member to serve as an alternate on the Pinellas County Opioid Abatement Funding Advisory Board. Item number C14 is to approve authorization for the city manager to negotiate with the firms recommended by the evaluation committee in order of preferences recommended for auditing services for RFP 22/005, and that's the end of the consent agenda.
Councilmember Reed.
Mayor Bradbury, regarding the consent agenda, I would like to make a motion to pass, approve, or adopt whichever action is appropriate, items C1 through C14, inclusive with items C5, C7, and C8 being first and final reading. The next public hearing will be held in council chambers on Thursday, November the 10th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Second the motion.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion by anybody on city council for items C1 through C14? Seeing none. Any discussion by anybody in the audience on these items? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Section 5, regular agenda, we do not have any this evening. So Section 6 is comments from city council and staff. Vice Mayor Seville.
Thank you, Mayor. It was an enjoyable night.
Good along.
We may need to buy some Kleenexes.
Easy.
Set them at the corner down there in case anyone needs it.
Because I picked on your son.
No, I wasn't speaking for you. I just thought I'd put it out there for anyone who might need one. But no, it was a great night. Looking forward to Halloween and the tree trail. That's always a great event, and just glad to be a Parker. That's all I got. Thank you.
My turn.
Your turn.
Happy to have Rick back.
Yeah.
Looking good. Yeah. And lots of prayers for your mom. And the treat trail. We did do the puppy costume contest, and it was amazing, and we had a ton of fun. The Sunrunner opened, and they're at like 70% capacity on all their rides still. It's like taking off really well. And that was a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen the Sunrunner and it stops, it's every 15 minutes. They have 16 buses that are down for the beaches and so forth. I wanted to give a big shout out to Sharon did I say it right? I said it wrong, didn't I? But I just think you're doing amazing things and helping out and bringing some new stuff to our wonderful city. And I hope that we can continue to work with people who maybe need some push along the way to have a career, and maybe look at people that don't have college degrees that we can hire and turn them into tradesmen, or tradespeople, I guess now is what we say. But I think you're doing awesome, and with the with our community and our people, that have health conditions or impairments, maybe we could reach out to some of them and just keep doing what you guys are doing. It's amazing. So thank you for what you're doing. And I think that's all I got. Yeah.
Councilmember Butler.
It's good to be back. Sorry I missed the meeting. It was great. I couldn't even watch it on TV at Northside, our famous Lowman Hospital. But anyway, I'm back with a vengeance, and see you guys on Monday. You won't even recognize me. I will be in costume. Keep them canine dogs away from me, I'm telling you right now.
Nothing for me to nightmare.
City clerks, do we have anything? Miss Diane? No. How about Miss Lana? Passing it down. Oh. I know we have some stuff coming up before the next council meeting.
Of course, the treat trail, which a couple of you have mentioned. Thank you so much, starting at 6 o'clock. And not to be forgotten as well, the Public Works Rodeo and Barbecue coming up on November 5th, kicking off at noon time, going till about 10. This year we have fireworks at the end of the at the end of the program. We have 2 rodeos, one at 1 o'clock, one at 5:30. Sutherland Band, Private Flag Band, Angie Ray will be there, so great fun, and of course great barbecue.
You got pardoned.
Come on out.
He's getting pardoned.
I thought he might want to add a little, anything to add, Bart, about barbecue?
I think we're going to have
I forget what year.
a special guest that,
Oh.
Fred may not make an appearance, but the pardon, we'll see how that works out. It's still yet to be determined. But I do want to say it's a contest, it's a cook-off, and Lieutenant Fortenberry's back there, and he is in the contest. So there might be some judges in here. Do not take bribes, please.
Do not.
This is a serious contest. Rick will testify. This
is his
very
guinea
serious.
pig sitting next to him right now?
No
One
bribes.
of the tasters?
No bribes. But no, it's going to be fun. October 5th, it'll be a good time. So.
And he can tease about that because when we get the box that has the ribs and the pulled pork and things like that in it, it has a number on it. It doesn't say that it's the lieutenant's. It only has a number, so.
Well, the good thing is I talked to Gus Trent, the guy with the rodeo, and he has allowed me to ride the bull this year, which is going to be pretty exciting.
It'll be worth coming out just to see that.
Yeah.
We will have an ambulance on site.
Every time they tell me to jump on, I'm ready. So I'm sure that'll be on TikTok, so just keep watching.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. 25 years, do you have anything else to add?
Congratulations, by
Yes.
the way. Sorry, yes, congratulations. That's awesome.
25.
It flew by, didn't it?
Blink your eyes, 25 more will go by.
I did want to add there will be something special at the treat trail that my daughter is cooking up, so. It'll be kind of
Cooking
neat.
up?
Not cooking. She does
Bread?
not cook. She even
Stirring
burned macaroni and cheese in the microwave. She forgot to put the water in the bowl.
Fried turkey?
No.
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 Purple size.
No.
I hope it's not the pig.
No.
You always blame it on a coyote.
So,
All I got.
we don't have anything else. The Chiefs.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things.
Good.
Certainly, we're looking forward to the treat trail. We're going to have quite a few of our units out there, including our dogs. We'll keep them away from you, Rick, as best we can. We'll have the horse out there as well. November 2nd is our next installment of Coffee with a Cop with our community officers. They're going to be at the Parkside Cafe on 49th Street from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. This morning, the Florida Department of Transportation recognized the agency, specifically our efforts for our participation with the Target Zero Safety Initiative. Our traffic teams and our patrol officers have been working really hard with them in safety initiatives to try and reduce the fatality crashes in Pinellas Park. I'm really proud of them. I'm proud they were recognized by the state today, along with other agencies. But it's good to see that their hard work is being recognized, and they are making a difference each and every day. On a personal note, it was good for me to see the city recognize AVM tonight. Most people don't know this. It was a long time ago, but my family was impacted. My youngest daughter was diagnosed with one as an infant, and it was a real scary time until we were able to do all the testing and kind of figure it out. You know, it's kind of one of those situations where you don't ever want to Google what the term means that you've never heard of before. And so the fact that we're bringing recognition to it and trying to get the word out is really good. So just from our family, I would say thank you for that. That's all I have.
Nothing?
Chief, you better have a rescue ready on the 5th. That's all I can tell you.
Hey, we are going to be there. We have the new power load stretchers, and they're automatic, or they're power operated, and then it's power load. It goes in easy, so we got.
It's going to be quick. 7 seconds is all I'm looking for.
At what mode? 1 or a 10? Slow mode. Oh, well, I want to wish everybody a fantastic Halloween if you celebrate it, and think of your neighbors when you're driving around, because it's getting darker quicker in the evenings, so there'll be plenty of people around your neighborhoods. There'll be plenty of people around right behind us here to the north at the England Brother Band Shell. And Rick can remember this, and Patty. It used to be over at Davis Field. So we have wonderful business community and nonprofits and citizens that come out and make sure that the kids in our community have a safe trick-or-treat trail. They start lining up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So make sure you're aware of things going on around the community here. And say a special thank you to staff. And not a special thank you to staff that keep secrets, but I was very honored to get that from the Florida League of Cities. So I've enjoyed almost every minute of the 20 years. I do it because I love the community. That's like a lot of us were taught to give back to our community over here too. So with that, we'll say that you guys have a blessed couple of weeks until we see you again, and don't forget the rodeo.